All right, Mo. So you had some good punters. So you had some
Mm,
good punters that obviously lost because you did very well. You had some good punters that you followed in,
yeah.
and you also had some sort of celebrity punters.
Yes, it was interesting how that all came about, and to this day I really can't think. But many of them were famous sportsmen. For example, George Best. Sadly, because he's not with us anymore, Joe Kinnear was another lovely chap. He was Joe. When he left Wimbledon Football Club, when Sam the Man got rid of him, he phoned up for a bet that evening. He was on the phone to me for over an hour, telling me his whole life story, how much he is looking forward to having longer than 2 weeks holiday with his wife now. After that conversation, he never had another bet with me. I think he felt he opened up too much, but he really was a lovely man. I had I had three of the Arsenal legends, and they really are the legends you could imagine. The top three Arsenal legends bet with me, but each one of them didn't know that the others were betting with me, so they never communicated or anything, and that's how I always kept it. There's one quick story which I can tell you, which I have told at a couple of other talks. I was at Walthamstow one night, and it was for the Injured Jockey Fund night, and I'd got a table and I used to take clients along and things like this. And because it was at Walthamstow, two of my clients were the guest of honours, and it was Vinnie Jones and Johnny Hartson. And Johnny Hartson obviously has come out that he had a huge gambling problem. And they kept coming over and giving me their bets for the night, you see. So as the evening went on, obviously I needed the lavatory, so it was at the Goodwood Lounge at Walthamstow upstairs, and there was two flat doors before you come into the area where the ladies were on the left and the pins were on the right. Just got to this flat door, and I had one of the guests that on my table, I had his brother-in-law, because he's what my friend couldn't, his wife couldn't make it, so his brother-in-law was with me. This young lady's jumped up, come up to me and said, "Why are them two coming over to you?" Because I always had a business card wherever, and I'd had a few drinks as well. So I just pulled out this card and I said, "Well, I'm bookmaker to the stars, you know." And her next phrase was, "Would you like to see my breasts?" But use a shorter abbreviated term. So I said, "Look, you know, this crazy thing to say, it looks fantastic as they do now, and I really do need the lavatory." So with that, she pulls up her top, but she had a brassiere on. So I said, "Look, I've got a wife over there. You've probably got a husband somewhere over there, and this is getting ridiculous now. You know, I really do need to go to the lavatory." Up come the brassiere. So I said, "Look, this is madness," and I went off. I mean, they were very nice, what I saw. But so the chap who was with me, obviously, when we got back to the table, was full of it. And it became a stupid little in house thing. "Oh, it's Mo, bookmaker to the stars." And they think that phrase was the thing that got ladies to take their clothes off for you. But
So I mean, how did you get? You know, you can't just sort of get introduced to George Best, or did you?
well, with George in particular, I went to a charity event that one of my clients was hosting, and one of the auction prizes was a day at Sky Sports Soccer on the Saturday soccer show. And my wife, she said when she was younger, was a keen fan of George Best, and so I bid for it and I got it. We went up there, met George in the green room. As I said, I've always classed myself I can put a punter, you know. And he had got the Daily Mirror open looking at the horse racing, and I gave him my card and said, "Look, George, I assure you, confidentiality is assured, nothing will ever come out." And I then said it as a badge of honour to him. I said, "How are you getting on with the drinking and your liver?" Because he hadn't had the transplant then. And because I said, "I've just had alcoholic hepatitis, where I had to abstain from the drink for 3 months." And he turned to me and he said, "Well, you're something of an effing idiot then, aren't you?" He actually used stronger words than that. He said, "Stop it because it will kill you." And I think it's terribly sad that ultimately it was that, it was his death. Fantastic client. He did phone up on the Monday. I thought it was somebody taking the mickey, but with a very strong Northern Irish accent. "Oh, I met Mo. He said I could have a bet. I'm George Best." Well, I told everybody at the pub that I'd met George Best, and I thought it was somebody up there messing about. But it wasn't. It was him, pure gentleman. His wife at the time, Alex. The accounts went out on a Monday. First check back was always his.
So we weren't asking for credit then.
No. Well, yeah, sorry, he did have credit.
Yeah. Oh, got it, yeah, but they
It
paid.
was a weekly credit account.
Yeah.
And I've got a letter in my gym that you've seen there from Alex on one of their house cards as such, saying sorry for the delay, we've been away on holiday, and sincere apologies and that kind of stuff. If only all punters were.
I was going to say the fact that you've mentioned that he used to pull it up the very next sort of the next couple of days. So did you? I mean, I even had credit accounts back in the day.
Oh, everybody did.
Yeah.
I found an old Sporting Life the other day. I've got a garage full of memorabilia, and every single major firm, it was applied for a credit account.
On approved references and all that.
Well, that was a joke. I must admit, when we set up Sports Bookmakers Limited, I opened myself up a couple of accounts. I will put my hands up. And I gave Sports Bookmakers as a reference. And I took the call off of one of them and I said, yeah, he's a loser on balance and pays well. Yeah.
There'll be somebody watching this that was on the other end of that
Probably
line.
was, yeah, that was 40 years ago, maybe, or 38 years ago.
So have you got any particular stories on the credit betting?
There are many, many, many. And it's just the phrases that punters use. First of all, you get the dogs of war that come into you and they get into you, and they used to irritate me immensely. They'll end up knocking you through an argument, and that's their justification for not paying. There was one chap, for example, he used to have a permit for greyhound racing. He was, doing very well for himself, lovely house and all this kind of stuff. And he said to me, "Oh, Mo," he said, "I'm running this dog tonight at a certain local track." It wasn't local to me, but I knew a couple of the books there. He said, "Do you think you can get £1,000 on for me?" So I said, "Well, look, if you're not going, if there's not a penny for it at the track," I said, "and I'm the only one looking after the money," I said, "we'll do it SP." Because I said, "I know a couple of the books here, and I'll ask them to drag it out for you." And that's what they'd done. It should have been a 6-4, 2-1 shot. They got it out to 11-4, 3-1. I think it was returned. It got beat. So he then went on the missing list. He had owed me about £400 or £500 before then, trying to punt out, and he just kept lying. Couldn't get hold of him. His secretary said he's gone away on a world cruise for 6 months, which is obviously nonsense. And I used to use a debt collector, not a violent debt collector, but he was very good. He'd go around at unusual hours. And yes, and he went round there, and of course he blew his top, phoned up, "I'm going to get somebody to beat you up," and all this nastiness. And yeah, and so I then found out Tony Morris had taken him to the rooms prior to that. So you had no way of knowing that they were that ilk. I've had lots of people cause rows. One of them was amusing. He was a jockey's agent in the time when jockey's agents were allowed to gamble. And he couldn't help himself. Good punter, as far as I was concerned, He was almost in the wagon bracket. And he was good also at marking the card to a certain extent. It's how I've got so-and-so booked for this and so-and-so booked for that. The trainer said that's fancied. But he had to play almost every race. Anyway, he owed us, we didn't have a time limit on that. It was when it came to a rough figure, we'd say, look, we'll have a settle up. So he was owing, I think it was £1,400, and he'd gone quiet. So one of the boys said to me, "Look, we'll call him Fred. Fred's gone very quiet." So I said, "I'll give him a ring." So I phoned him up. I said, "Look, Fred, I know you had a bad run, but we've got to see some money, mate. I'm not after the lot, just give us something." He said, "Well, I'll see what I've got. Hang on a minute, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it all right if I send you that?" I said, "Yeah, that's fine, mate. It just keeps it on a level playing field, really." So the envelope turned up the next day, and it had got 4 £20 notes in. It wasn't 400, it was 4 £20 notes he was counting on his desk. So then I agreed with him that what we'll do, we'll put that to one side, that debt. Carry on playing, but you've got a strict limit, and it's going to be monthly. On the first of every month, we settle either way. He said, "Yeah, that's fine with me." So I gave him, say, a couple of £100 he can play for that month. Lo and behold, it's a winning spin. He won about £3 He was running it up, running it up, running it up. So I said, well, obviously I've cleared the other monies that you owe me. He said, well, can you send me the balance? I said, well, it's not the first of the month yet. You know, you agreed on that. Oh, you phoned me up when I owed £1,400. Yeah. And he started this row. So I said, well, look, so what he'd done, he went berserk gambling, shot the lot away, ended up owing about £2 and said, right, that's it, I'm not paying you. You didn't pay me when I wanted it, I'm not paying you. And it's the other thing as well, another great phrase, which I still use to this day to people who phone me up, tongue in cheek. If somebody's in front, so you'd have, it wasn't strictly weekly, if they were local or pubs and things like this, you know, you just played it by ear really. And you'd phone up, what's my figure? Oh, you're in front. And they knew they was in front because they'd been behind for the last 6 weeks. oh, actually, funny enough, I'm in your area, I'm just passing. Can I pop in and draw? And so that phrase, just passing. And another one which I used to use, which isn't going to sound very good, if you went into the office and the staff would say, oh, Mo, we've just heard that poor old Bill Smith has died, you know, one of our punters. My first question was, did he owe?
I've heard that from other bookmakers, don't worry.
All the time. They never died in front. They never. And there was a lady, because I was a great advocate of lady gamblers. It's a huge untapped market. I used to take them out, wine and dine them. I had one lady, a fantastic punter. She was guaranteed £500-600 a week, easy, if not more. A wealthy lady, she had a couple of race horses. Her husband wasn't interested. So I used to drive down, pick her up, and I'd go to the races with her. Anyway, sadly, she passed away and she had cancer and it wasn't very nice. And her husband called me and said she wants to see you, Mo. And she was in a hospice. So I went to see her, we said our farewells. By the time I get home, she had passed away. So her son came up to me at the funeral and said, look, Mo, Mum thought the world of you and I want to pay you whatever she owed you. Well, for the first time since Queen Victoria was on the throne, she was 1/8, £18 in front. How could I tell him 18? Because he thinks, well, my mum wouldn't have been £18 in front. I could have understood if he'd have said 1,080 because of the way she gambled. So I'm giving it that, look, please don't pay, no, oh, I can't, look, I know Mum, she was a lunatic gambler. Please let me pay what she owed. No, I won't hear of it. And I actually put that £18 in the collection pot. But yeah, I just felt a bit guilty that sod's law that poor old lady was in front when she passed.
Yeah. The people watching these stories, watching this, especially the younger ones, this is like an alien planet.
Yes, it is.
Well, yes. We remember it, but
yeah, it was such great times. And the stories and the other ones, the cheque's in the post. Now, the cheque would turn up, but it wasn't signed. Now, I was quite good, and self-praise is no praise, at forging signatures. So all I would do is find a biro of the same colour that they'd wrote their figures in and sign it. We never had one come back, and we never had one complaint from the client, because they can't say, well, that cheque I sent you wasn't signed. But we would have a ration of them. And all they were after time. Some of them would bounce, but represent and go. But we never had one pull about the difference on signatures.
The post dated?
Yes, I had one chap owed me about £1,600. He said, my back's against the wall, Mo. In fairness to him, he gave me a pile of cheques, £50. I had to put them in fortnightly. And they all cleared. But cheques, what are they nowadays? It's another thing that's not used, is it?